Heidegger, Being in the World and Relational Practice.
Welcome to an episode on thinking education relationally. In this episode, we explore Martin Heidegger's notion of being in the world and what it might mean for relational practice in teaching and learning in higher education.
From Cartesian mastery to being in the world.
To understand what, in an ontological sense, may be problematic in this way of viewing the forest, let's jump forward from the 16th to the 20th century and arguably the most significant challenge to a domineering Cartesian approach to the world. In his magnum opus, Being and Time, Heidegger draws a distinction between experiences that are ready to hand, where I'm not consciously focused on what I'm doing, and those which are present at hand, where I am. For Heidegger, our orientation to the world is, for the most part, ready to hand.
Ready-to-hand experience and the breakdown of separation.
So just think about walking into a room at night. When I enter, I don't think about turning the light on, I just do it. Indeed, certain activities will go wrong, or have the potential to go wrong, once I start thinking about them. Consider the act of hammering nails into wood. If you're hammering and you start thinking about it, there's every chance that you'll hit your thumb or miss the nail. Successful hammering depends on not consciously focusing on what you're doing. Moreover, there is a sense in which the divide between self and equipment, human and object, breaks down. The hammer must in some way become part of you to hammer well. We have words in our language which capture this merging of self and world. We tend, though not always, to talk about guitarists rather than guitar players. The word guitarist indicates that the person and the guitar are, in some sense, one. Here we begin to see a shift in how the relationship between humans and the world might be understood. The clear distinction found in Descartes between immaterial self and material world starts to blur. This challenges the privileged position we accord to human consciousness, as it becomes difficult for much of the time to clearly delineate the human being from other sorts of being, even though our conventional patterns of thought tell us otherwise.
Dasein, thrownness and material agency.
Heidegger uses the term Dasein, usually translated as their being, as a way of accounting for our thrownness into the world, our connectedness to things. Dasein provides an alternative account of the human, which is necessarily more than. The relational way of thinking offered by Heidegger helps us to see the beings in the world as not simply there to be used by us, but as having their own kind of agency. Think of sawing a piece of wood. The grain of the wood only allows for certain movements of the saw, and a straight line cut in one part of the log is not an equivalent straight line in another. The grain affects what I do, and thus exerts a kind of agency, though such agency typically goes unacknowledged. Seeing things in this way has an ethical dimension, as it diminishes the importance of human consciousness and accounts for our embodied dwelling in the world. Indeed, Heidegger calls thinking a handicraft, therefore putting the separation of mind and body under philosophical duress.
Technology, domination, and horizons of meaning.
In his later work, Heidegger comes to think that our relationships to things in the world and to each other are both terribly affected by what he calls the technological understanding of being. Heidegger's treatment of ontology involves the belief that different phases of human existence have what he calls horizons of meaning, against which beings in the world show up for us in particular ways. The beings that there are in the world and the beings that we are as humans change in accordance with new horizons of meaning. Heidegger felt that the rise of science and developments within technology and modernity create an orientation to the world in which humans see beings in the world as things to dominate and control, in much the same way that the forest example demonstrates. For Heidegger, the Rhine ceases to be thought of as a subject of poetry and is seen primarily as a source of hydroelectric power to be used up. As with Descartes, ontological and ethical issues become enmeshed. For Heidegger, seeing beings in this way, in accordance with our current horizon of meaning, is ethically problematic. If we could resurrect Heidegger, I doubt he would be particularly keen on the term sustainable development, as it arguably presents the world as a finite resource to be maintained for the benefit of humans. Develop as much as you like, as long as you don't destroy everything in the process. That way of thinking is something that Heidegger found problematic and reflects an orientation that our project seeks to challenge. What Heidegger offers here is not a solution, but a different way of seeing how the problem itself takes shape.
What does this mean for education?
For education, this draws attention to learning as an embodied and situated practice shaped by how learners are already involved with materials, tools, and environments, rather than as a purely mental activity applied from a distance.